Mr. Chairman, we're live.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are at our 10:30 agenda item. This is an action item. This is a request from West Central Mountains Economic Development Council for additional funding. Lindsay, I'm going to turn it over to you to start this.
Okay, good morning, commissioners. Again, my apologies that I'm not there. Of course, the one time I'm not, we have technology issues. So my fault. Thank you for the opportunity to present this morning. It's our understanding that there are some remaining funds in the general budget for the economic development line item. And we feel like it's a unique opportunity to advocate for some initiatives that are going on and could benefit Valley County residents and small businesses. We created in your packet, you should have received an explanation letter, and then also an itemized invoice that outlines where the proposed remaining funding would go. And that includes the county has always been so supportive of the Economic Summit, which thank you so much. And actually, we did secure the location at Tamarack Resort. So that will be the first time we're hosting there, and we're excited to have it there. And we thought we could go ahead and use fiscal year 2024 funds and invoice for your summit sponsorship, the corporate sponsorship, which is $2,500, which then would free up funding for your use next year in fiscal year 25. And then additionally, that resource management plan that is ongoing with extension. And then also that would provide financial support for rolling out the resource management plan and open house and community meetings and the public engagement piece that would be needed to roll out that resource management plan. And then additionally, we have the Creative District, which is Idaho's first creative district. And I believe you're familiar with that, and I will go into more detail, but that would provide administrative and marketing support that is greatly needed for that initiative that we've seen it do well. And I really think that those funds could go a long way for the Creative District. And then the remaining funds would be for workforce development initiatives. And I attached the work plan that we've submitted to Department of Commerce that outlines for you kind of the sectors that we're looking at, and then also additional economic development support. But workforce development has been a big part of the feedback that we get from our jurisdictions, but most importantly from our small businesses as well. So we have some events, and also we want to do more career fairs for our youth and young adults. So some exciting opportunities there, and those funds, like I said, could go a long way. And I feel like the Economic Development Council is poised to be a responsible fiscal agent and distributor of those funds. We're overseen by a large board, and our treasurer, Mayor Julie Good from New Meadows, is very on top of it and is aware of the situation and helped me craft that budget. And so happy to go into more detail, but the Creative District, that the $75, the Economic Development Council has been the fiscal agent for the Creative District when the opportunity was presented by Idaho Commission on the Arts to do this pilot program, which would create Idaho's first creative district, which is a regional geographic area that's outlined to support creatives and the arts in the region. And actually, the West Central Mountains is a wonderful little niche of creatives and small business owners working out of their homes, and also just all the other programs that go on from Cascade to New Meadows that are relative to the arts, such as McCall Arts and Humanities Council, Horizons, the Cascade Cultural Arts Center, and also with New Meadows creating their new community center and youth center from the recycling center that they're converting to. So they're going to have an additional community space for these sorts of things. So for the Creative District specifically, this would include $4,000 that would help market and host our online directory that actually is a free tool for artists to promote their creative businesses. And we have over 70 artists that are currently signed up. We would love to reach more. And also continue to update the website with events and resources and promote more artists. And then additionally, there was the first annual artisan tour in the mountains that was, oh gosh, Delta, feel free to chime in, but I think there were over 25 artists that signed up in the region that were hosts at these different satellite spots and studios throughout the region, and over 100 different folks participated in touring those studios. So a very unique program that did very well and welcomed public into these artists' homes and studios. And then also we have a mini local art gallery project that we had written a grant for and participated in a community boot camp where we were awarded some funds, some small seed money. I think it was $750. But part of these funds, the fund ask would be to finish these mini art galleries that would be housed at 4 different locations in each of the 4 communities, and quarterly have rotating artists that would be able to showcase their work in those little mini art galleries. So that the funds would go to construct those, and we're working with McCall Woodworks outside of Donley on the prototype for that. And then also $1,500 for event coordination and supporting those events that we've hosted. We have a summer soiree, and then also some other networking events for artists, and continuing to provide small business support. And then the summit, I did provide the sponsorship packet, but the $2,500 is that corporate sponsorship that you all have graciously done each year. And then, like I mentioned, the workforce development funding and that work plan to kind of help you understand what our focuses are in this next year. And the resource management plan, like I said, is ongoing with extension and being able to coordinate events and outreach for the resource management plan and any costs that would be affiliated with that process. I know that I just threw a lot at you. So please hit me with any questions or points of clarification.
Lindsay, this is Zelta. I had just a quick question on the bullet point number 1, the $4,000. Do you guys have a contract with McKinsey to do this, or is this going to go outside the county?
Great question. McKinsey has been a part of the process since the beginning. And please, Delta, or if Melissa's on the call, chime in with if I misspeak. She is our current web designer and professional, so it would make probably the most sense financially to have her stay on, just because she's familiar with the platform. But I mean, certainly, if we felt it was important to go out for bid for that, we're happy to discuss that.
And then the last question is this going to be an annual request?
No, this is a one-time request at this time. At least in terms of these remaining economic development funds and us feeling we had a good opportunity, ideally, and Delta again chime in, the Creative District, this is kind of a launch pad for the group. So we are seeking outside funding and grant opportunities and other funding mechanisms, but this could be seed money to start that process. Delta, feel free.
So Delta's Lindsay, here and Melissa's here. Who wants to go next? I'll go ahead, I guess.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm pleased to be here. I'm Delta James. I serve on the leadership team for the Creative District. I'm also on the board of the West Central Mountains Economic Development Council. And Lindsay, you did a great job. I don't have a lot to add. The Creative District is a passion point for me because not only do I work professionally in economic development, but I'm also a creative myself and have a small business. I make leather products here in Valley County. So this is overall, the Creative District is a tool that's used by economic developers to promote and support the businesses that are behind those things that people make in our area. And the arts, so as an economic development tool. The Idaho Commission on the Arts did help seed the effort with a planning grant right to start Idaho's first creative district, which we are pleased to have successfully done. But then there's no other funding source within the Idaho Commission on the Arts to support implementation activities like Lindsay outlined. We do hope that our request today to you is that next step forward for the creative district. Like any nonprofit, like any volunteer-led good initiative that's trying to get off the ground. We don't know for sure what the future is going to look like in terms of a repeated request next year, but we do know that the return on investment of supporting our locals who are making things and helping them thrive in that manner to diversify our local economy is important to our region, and we want to continue to build that work that we've started as Idaho's first creative district. We don't have a contract with Lindsay right now for the request in front of you, but Mackenzie has been a good partner for our effort from the very beginning, has helped build our creative directory structure, and we anticipate pursuing that work with her as our first choice.
Hey, Melissa.
Yes.
Come to the mic.
Okay. In addition to everything that's been said, you both have represented the effort well. I would just say I find that people have a difficult time finding each other in our community, and so this webpage is a very easy place where people can go and access and learn about all the different talent, whether they want custom cabinets or custom ceramic made, handles. They can go and find these artisans to be able to contribute to the local economy and have that multiplier effect in our communities. And they can click on the webpage and go shop for local. It's essentially, a really great buy local campaign where we can find each other and support the locals and that multiplier effect for the economy.
Okay. Lindsay, just real quick on how do you put in a claim, like if somebody has Mackenzie has a claim for so many hours, that comes to you and then you send it to the county and we pay the claim so that the money's ran through. We're not just going to write you guys a check. Is that correct?
We're happy to do whatever the county feels is the best, most responsible way. If that's the way we would like to do this, is funnel invoices, we can certainly accommodate what's needed.
Our problem with doing that, Eld, is that we are at the end of the year. That's the whole reason of doing this as a donation to them and letting them control it, because it starts to come out next month out of this next year's budget. These are funds that have already been requested of the taxpayers. They've already paid the tax on them, so it's sitting there in the budget right now. So,
Yeah, I guess my job as a commissioner is to make sure that people aren't handed a big check and then they just take off with it. And so we got to be real careful because that has happened in the past. We've gone to jail. So we got to be careful how we handle that money and how it's billed and if it comes through the county. And that's my biggest concern is to keep people going to jail for misuse of public funds. So be careful with that.
on that.
Would it help if there was like a report out on how all the funds were spent at the end of the year to summarize the impact that you made with those contributions?
How you doing it now, Doug? Do they send claims to you or do they just write checks?
I guess I'm a little confused about the question. All claims are processed by our office in which an invoice is presented to us. The invoice clearly identifies how the money is going to be expended. If you're specifically talking regarding the West Central Mountain Economic Development Council, yes, we get a claim that says contribution for fiscal year 2024 that's already been made, that the commissioners have already approved. But with this request, what we would specifically request is on the invoice, identify how the funds are going to be utilized.
So that's what that invoice is that's been presented.
So do they have their own checking account?
Yes, it's totally separate from us. It's not.
No, I just want to make sure that
And-
people aren't getting themselves into trouble.
No, this
No.
is a full board. We have a treasurer. Everything is
You have like 2 signatures on the checking account?
absolutely,
Okay.
Kind of like
I
the
mean,
fair
it's-
board in a way.
yeah, it's
Okay.
total. That's why it would go through the EDC. It is a nonprofit. They have to be accountable to all funds. This would just be a
And-
donation.
And
Lindsay,
we do, oh, I was just gonna clarify too, we do have it, like, we keep every month, our financials are approved, and, you know, we have a profit and loss statement, and we have line items. So all of these would be separate line items, that are accounted for and are treated. And I mean, they're all in one, you know, one area, but they're treated as separate funds and allocated and distributed, separately.
Lindsay, I got this, Commissioner Thompson.
Hello.
Question for you.
Yes.
I understand the Economic Council, and that's awesome. The creative part, a lot of time what I look at is being able to hire people. Yeah, you start a business, but hiring people along with that is important to me to see for a successful operation, I guess. And
I see.
you know, hiring people in the community for these businesses, you know, other than just a individual building a coffee cup, you know, are you hiring people to help? Is part of that integrated into what you're doing on this creative part?
And Delta or Melissa, feel free to chime in on that. I guess the one thing I would say to that is, it is, you know, with cottage industry and micro manufacturing, they do start small, but the hope is they have the tools and the resources that then propel them. Let's say they're a studio at home, and then all of a sudden they're able to go to a commercial front, and now they're, you know, in a city paying taxes, sales tax, lot tax, and they're progressing and contributing economically in that sense. And then all of a sudden they're so busy they need to hire, you know, a part-time person for the front. So yes, I guess in the sense that we're supporting them to grow and to develop how far they want to go. In that sense, yes. And Delta, feel free to elaborate.
No, that's absolutely correct. It's all about scalability and helping these creatives move beyond their home studios. We're currently hosting a workshop series, a multi-month workshop series called Archipreneur, which is basically scalability and business development, specifically targeted to makers. And we're about halfway through hosting that currently in partnership with the Idaho Commission on the Arts. But yes, Commissioner, ultimately the goal would be to scale these businesses up to the point where they can hire locally to produce more items or whatever it is, whatever they're making, to produce more of them utilizing local hired help. Just like any other business development, the model is very similar, any other entrepreneurial project.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
And I think what it does also is that, so far they have been really working on volunteerism. And what this does is it allows them to hire Mackenzie to actually do the work to keep this project moving forward. And so it really is difficult if you don't have some funding in order to pay people to do some of the work that needs to be done within these nonprofits. If not, it's all volunteer, and volunteer boards are very difficult to
Yeah, so for
maintain.
the past year, I've been leading the Creative District as the chair to hold and convene those meetings. And we've accomplished amazing things with that volunteer committee to be able to do that artisan tour, to be able to do a boot camp and develop this visual, like this idea and concept for the Little Free Galleries, for us to be able to do the soiree. We did an art swap. So all the events that we've done as a volunteer committee has been phenomenal. And so essentially the additional funding does help us, you know, web page updates. It helps us strengthen that web page, which if you can visualize, you know, the business center or the industrial center of the past where there was physical storefronts that people would go to be able to buy local things. This is essentially a virtual version of that. And so you go to the web page and now you have 70 storefronts or potential storefronts if they've listed their Etsy page or where you can buy their product. And so essentially the funds is helping support to build out that virtual infrastructure to be able to support people finding local businesses. And then building their capacity to be able to sell more product, to then upgrade what they're doing to be able to then hire people. So it's all part of trying to build that out.
Would you talk about the workforce development, also the construction?
Yes.
I know that there was some skills building in construction last year.
I'll let Lindsay speak to it because I know she's taken the lead with building out capacity with culinary, and then there was a construction workforce development effort in the past that we can talk about, but I'll let Lindsay lead.
Well, I was going to say, Melissa, feel free to expand on the construction one because that predates my time. That was with Andrew and Melissa, who worked really hard on that part. But yes, Commissioner Thompson, I was actually going to go to the concept of hiring and expanding skill sets and retaining talent locally. So those workforce development funds will go directly to that. And in the work plan, you'll see that we outline the industries we want to focus on, but specialty trades and micro manufacturing are two of those because we recognize there are a lot of, I mean, currently we're not able to meet demand, but certainly we want to also account for future demand. So there is that is definitely working with regional employers and also state and federal partners on those specialty trades that we recognize are critical, especially if some larger projects get approved. And for example, I know I've mentioned City of Cascades geothermal project. CDL continues to be a large need as well here. So these dollars would go towards supporting programming and efforts in those areas too. And there is the culinary program with McCall College that is in the approval process with Department of Education that's in conjunction with Chef Topple and local employers to be able to have our own culinary institute in the region. And so they've worked really hard, and the EDC has supported that in the workforce development marketing side of things. But yes, there are some really unique efforts being made for workforce development. And Melissa, if you want to talk about the construction, the trades program that you, and for reference, what you all had worked on.
Sorry for the interruption. I have just a quick recommendation for the board to consider. When you transfer funds to a third party like West Central Mountain Economic Development, I would recommend that the county create an MOU between the county and the organization, which would kind of outline the contribution of funds that the county's making, and maybe quarterly reports on how those funds were spent with receipts. So you are tracking expenditures throughout the term of the agreement, and that's something our office could put together if it's something you want to consider and require as part of this process.
Right, I really appreciate it, and that was kind of the base of my question earlier about, the claims and how we're going to pay the bills, because there's been a lot of people get in trouble over the years because they didn't do that process. It's not that I'm against it. I think what you guys are doing are wonderful. Our job is to make sure that the money doesn't leave without it being accounted for.
It sounds to me like what you're contemplating is an upfront lump sum payment, which I think is fine. But then as those dollars are expended, have West Central Mountain come back, report back to the board how the money was spent, provide the county with receipts so you can track and you have the paper trail to show that those dollars were spent in those areas that we agreed to, and that you just have a good paper trail of how those expenditures were made.
Ryan, is that something we need to do too? Because I mean, like, we're
We
giving
do
you
have
back
MOUs
this
with
year.
Department of Commerce, for example, and when City of McCall is giving us funds. So we're familiar with that process, and I don't foresee us having any issue with that. And I fully understand and support properly vetting the use of those funds and making sure that they're spent appropriately. So
And we would model
That
our
means-
agreement after what Department of Commerce does or the City of McCall does, so we have something very similar. And yes, I would recommend that we formalize this kind of a process with any third party that we're
We
transferring.
need to think about that
transferring
because
dollars
we're
to.
doing Yak, Ignite, Idaho. I mean, we've got a lot
Yep.
this year in the budget.
And it's just it's a good way for you to just, and really all I'm advocating for is just to have a paper trail for the funds, so you can account for those dollars at the end of each fiscal year.
So Lindsay, do you have like a standard MOU with the Department of Commerce now that they send you?
mhm.
Maybe
Yep.
get us a copy of that and forward it to us or to Brian Oakey, and we can take a look at that.
Yes. do you think it's best, I know, do you think it's best if I circle back with my board also and explain kind of what the proposed, process is moving forward? And then we come back, I don't know if there's time on the agenda Monday to formally adopt the process, and that gives us time to get a template in place. What would you recommend is best?
We don't meet until the 30th, so it would have to be on the 30th. We have conference next week.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. How does that sound to you all? Does that
I
feel?
like the idea you guys come to us with something, whether it's a
Okay.
copy of that agreement, the
Yep.
MOU with the department, or however you want to set it up, and then present it to us, and we can look it over then.
And I'm happy to work with your legal office to make sure that what we propose is a good working final product. Point of clarification, let's say some funds aren't we can discuss that, but terms and timelines of when the funds would need to be expended, et cetera. But I can chat with your legal counsel about that.
Okay. Now, I want to tell you guys a really quick story, because one of the guys that joined this last tour of the artists was a friend of mine who has Cascade Woodworks, Clear Creek Woodworks, and he builds a lot of pine furniture. And he has since bought a bandsaw where he can make his own thick benches, and he also inlays sliced polished rocks with epoxy. And he's hired a friend in Riggins to collect the rocks and slice them and get them to him, and he pays the guy for those rocks. So here's a little tiny thing that you can see has already created some income from some people that can do this kind of as a side job. So I think this is great. This is how you grow things. You got to start somewhere.
Diversify our economy just out
Yeah.
of recreation and tourism.
And I go over and help him run his band mill. So now I can say, you know what? You got to start paying me, man. It's a business.
You did say you
You found your niche there.
I got my niche.
Yeah,
you know?
that's your transition.
I want Social Security, and I want retirement, and I want medical and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
That's a perfect example of that progress.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Brian, when you look at this with her, so we actually signed that MOU with Department of Commerce because we are the fiscal agent for it. So we already have an MOU with,
Passing through commerce dollars to.
yes, for a specific scope of work, which this scope of work actually covers what this is all about. So I'm curious. So you'll actually have to take a look at it and see what we have in place and see
Yeah,
what else you
so
think.
first step, if you would, send me the agreement with Department of Commerce. Make sure that we're meeting all of those requirements, and then if there's an additional MOU required as a sub agreement under that, which I assume there will, but we'll make that determination once we review the state MOU.
Okay, Lindsay, you're on that to send him everything. Okay.
Okay, will do.
Mr. Chairman,
Any other questions?
Yeah, Doug.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I have this on the agenda for September 30th at 1:30 PM, if that works for everyone. For a
Does that work for
follow-up.
you, Lindsay?
Yes.
Okay, so then this is an action item. If we want to go ahead and fund this, I need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move forward with the request for funding from the West Central Mountains Economic Development Council as outlined by Director Lindsay Harris.
Second,
For 7,500.
No, for 30,000.
30,000.
The 7,500 just goes to the Creative
For
District.
just this project.
Yeah. So they've got a whole breakdown of the rest of it. It goes to pay our way to the summit, for the resource management plan, and then for the workforce development.
And we got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for the
thanks,
thoughtful
Lindsay.
conversation.
Get to feeling
and great-
better.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Okay, we'll see you next time. Okay, we're gonna move on and thanks. We're gonna keep going here on our agenda. Our next item has an action item, a propane services bid and an elevator maintenance request for proposal. I'm gonna open these, but I don't think there is a cover sheet. This has not been forwarded to legal and financial. And so this may get postponed depending on what these bids look like. Does that work for everybody?
Works for me.
Yeah. That's what they are. Your husband buy you one or you buy your own? I pack mine with me all the time.
I don't, but
So again, I want to remind everybody, this is a proposal. This is not a bid. And, I'm not sure how to proceed here, Brian. There is no cover sheet. So these would be pending a approval of the contract if we approve the lowest bid. Would that work?
Mhm.
I don't know how to do this because we're kind of out of our process here.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's in the envelope there, so,
There is, I'm looking. Okay, so the bid is for, Sheriff's Department, EOC, McCall Annex, Francie Wallace, Wellington Park, Road Department, U of I, and then there's an additional cost to swap tanks. This is the commodity price plus a certain percentage above that. It's all the same for all the different departments, and that's the only. It's called the rack price. That's the word I was looking for.
Right.
And I don't know if I should announce that or if I should.
What is the company on that one?
This is Ed Staub.
what, Mr. Chairman, maybe the way to proceed here is to postpone a final decision, forward it to my office for review. I can review what was submitted to make sure that we've followed all the steps that are required by the statute, and then I can make a recommendation to you for next week on
We're not here next week,
30th.
following week.
so the following Monday. So what I would like to do is just postpone this until after we have legal review and not proceed any further.
You want us to open all the bids?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate to go ahead and open all the bids because you'll need to send them all to me open so I can
Okay,
Yeah.
review.
so then do you want me to announce what their bid is for me?
No, we'll do that. We'll do that when we reconvene on the issue.
Okay. So then, Doug, I guess we'll just postpone this until further review from legal. The other bid that we received was from Valleywide. And it's pretty much the same. The same areas, EOC, McCall Annex, Francie, all that's together. The Bellevue price, they also call it the rack price.
Does the rack mean it's subsidized by the state? Keep an even number?
No, the state gets in propane and it's kind of like the gasoline. Different areas in the state, that's what the state
Pays.
pays. And then the local companies buy the propane from the state. And it's the Bellevue or the rack price plus that would be our bid.
Oh, I see.
It's a price that's set by larger distributors that are regionally based.
Right.
They'll ship propane to this area for a certain price and then pay above that big price for.
So I guess I want the record noted that we had two bids, one from Ed Staub and one from Valleywide. And these are going to be forwarded to legal for purview, and I'm assuming you would get a hold of them to look at a contract?
Well, we'll have to develop a contract for these.
And there should be one already made from previous years.
This should be a renewal.
Okay, now we're gonna move on to the elevator maintenance proposal. And this is a request for proposal. This is not a contract. Again, this has not gone through legal or financial. And this one is from Premier Elevator Company. We only had one bid. And now this one we might be able to do, Brian, because it says the contractor must provide to the county a W-9, proof of current insurance meeting Valley County requirements. I think we're maybe okay here.
That looks like his standard contract that he does for these.
I think for elevator maintenance, we did put one out to bid last year or the year before. So if you want to send that to me as well, I'll review that, make sure that the publication got made appropriately, and we can check those boxes. But that one might be a pretty quick review.
What's the company on that one, Al?
Well, this one is Premier Elevator Company, and they're bidding it, it's kind of different, per month per elevator. And it works out to $1,380 per elevator per year.
Okay.
We have 4 elevators, 2 in the courthouse, 1 in EOC, and 1 in Marititle.
$1,380 per elevator.
And then there's an emergency and an after-hour labor rate. It comes with it, holidays and weekends rate. There's no mileage or per diem charged.
I think Premier's our existing contractor. It obviously is going to expand the scope of the work because of the addition of the elevator in the Marititle building. So we'll need to make sure and update the agreement. If they're awarded the contract, we'll have to update that contract to reflect the new
That's the total cost.
new requirement. But that won't start until we take possession of the Marititle building next year.
Well, honestly, this isn't too bad of a price, but we're gonna postpone this one until we have,
I'd recommend the same process with this one. Let's just take a quick look at it
and then we'll see you back in 2 weeks.
finalize it on the 30th. Yep.
Okay. You want to take these now? Excuse me. Okay, our next agenda item is not an action item. This is public relations with Mackenzie Kramer. Mackenzie, are you on?
She is. One moment, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Brian.
Mackenzie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Hey, Mackenzie, welcome.
Morning.
Hi, sorry, I didn't realize I was on the agenda till I looked at it this morning.
Well, that's good. Surprises are fun.
It's
Didn't know
fun,
we
here we
were
are.
We'll
Nice.
just turn it over to you and we'll see what you got.
Perfect. Well, I thought I'd do just a little update. Social media wise, I think, as we all know, it's been a lot of fire posts. A lot of how we've done it is run everything through the sheriff's office and then we reshare it. So our performance wise has not grown a lot in the last 30 days. I mean, we still have 54,000 impressions. But if we look over at the sheriff's page, they have like 150,000 impressions, and that's where most of those posts are originating from. So it makes a lot of sense. Top content, honestly, every single post is about fires. so that's what we're doing right now. Looking ahead a little bit, we've got some other things happening. I don't know if you've seen, the post on Valley County that got the most engagements, which I think is exciting, are the posts about the new GIS application that was part of, that was developed, the hazard and risk map. So I'm excited people are engaging with that. Sherry, as you know, I think you were on those emails, but Kara just completed, 20 plus tutorials on how to really use that tool to the best of its ability so that you can personalize it. So we're going to start rolling out like a weekly post on those tutorials so that we can just help people better utilize that new great resource. And it makes a lot of sense. We'll start with some wildfire stuff, but there's additional information that I think is really pertinent as we kind of move through the season. So that'll be something on our list that we're scheduling out. And then similarly, the election is coming. So there'll be some additional election posts happening with, key dates as absentee ballot requests start happening, early in-person voting, all that kind of stuff. So we'll have some, I guess, different content other than fires that will be hitting here shortly. I will say the one thing I've been just tracking, because I think it's kind of an interesting piece, is our engagement rate. And our engagement rate is actually very high right now. It's at 12%. A lot of times what I'm seeing, like on some of the other accounts I manage, like the chambers, 5% is pretty good. So our engagement rate is very high, which I think is good. It means what we're sharing is resonating with people. Overall, across all industries, an industry average Facebook engagement rate is 0.06. So we're at 12%. So that's very good. And it's honestly higher than it has been previously. So I think that's a really good metric for us to just keep tabs on. It just shows that we're sharing relevant content and people are finding value in it. So I think that's pretty good. In terms of website, as expected, I think every single page, the top 10 pages are something to do with fire, sheriff's office, emergency notification, all this kind of stuff. So the top 10 pages there, with the exception of the assessor's office, was number 3 this month. So good assessor's office. People are checking what they owe. Then beyond that,
Mackenzie, on the Code Red, do we have an easy way to get to Code Red to sign up? I had a lot of people asking that.
It's a pain.
There's not. It's buried. It used to be up top on like a top banner. And I think it might be worth like figuring out a new place for that. At least maybe putting it on the home. It's not even, as I'm looking at the website right now, it's not even under, we have like these 5 things with like the sheriff's department, right? Like the top links and stuff like that. So it's not there right now, which I think is something we should fix. So I can put that on my list and talk with Tamara and IT about where to add that. So add Code Red.
I agree. It's very difficult to find. And I had a lot of people trying to sign up. So I was sending them to the sheriff's office and the sheriff's Facebook page, but I think it needs to be front and center on our website.
Yep. And it is like, it's on a sub menu under the sheriff's department, but it's, I'm not really sure why it's not on there. Easier to see. So, we will work on that. The other thing that we had talked about is the newsletter stuff. So it took me a while to figure out what's going on, but the newsletter sign up, we do have a button on the homepage that's for the newsletter sign up, but it's like it's a form that's not going directly into our MailChimp account. So what I'm trying to figure out is where those entries are going, add those into our MailChimp account, and then swap the newsletter sign up form for an automatic form that drops people directly into our contact list so that we don't have to do this like double data entry. I think honestly that's where the disconnect was. So I was unaware that was happening. So that's in progress, but I think that should be fixed by the end of this week. And then we're going to get on just a normal schedule of a monthly newsletter. But then in addition, I think there's a lot of, all the fire stuff has sort of brought this to the attention where, sending out a quick recap when there's pertinent news. So we're going to use our newsletter and contact system a bit better. But right now we're sorting out the signups because that's kind of a key piece to this. So we'll have that sorted by the end of this week and then get going from there.
And I don't know what's going out with the bills this year as far as if there is anything going out from the treasurer or assessor notices, but we could put something on that bill about how to sign up to. People need to know how to get a hold of us, especially in the event of emergencies like this.
Yep, for sure. I can chat with Johanna and see what they've got planned to put out in the bills this year. I haven't heard of what we're doing, so I'll double check with her and see what we've got.
The other thing I think is going to be a conversation this winter is how have these fires impacted our snowmobile routes? So as we move into winter, make sure you're touching base with Larry Laxon and making sure we get word out on if we're being impacted. That Anderson Creek Road is a concern. That's a huge snowmobiling route.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that for sure. I know in chatting with like the sled dog race and stuff as well, like they're assessing routes and stuff as the fires have impacted a lot of that as well. So I'm assuming we'll have some additional information on that October, like mid-October, so we can kind of keep tabs on that. The other project I'm working on right now, we're just kicking it off, but the Recreation Advisory Board has their strategic plan drafted, and so that's been turned over to me to make it pretty and more readable rather than just reading a big long Word document. So that should be coming here in the next couple of weeks, at least the first draft of that. So just to keep you guys posted.
Nice. That's exciting.
Sounds like you're on top of it.
We've got it. I know. We're here.
Had to
Let me know if
spend
you need anything.
Have you had to spend a ton of time working on the fire stuff with Juan? He reached out to you?
Honestly, Kelly and I at the Sheriff's Department have been working the closest. I was out of town for a little bit, so she took some of that over. To be honest, it's very challenging when incident command changes every 14 days. Just when we get a groove with, the team that's there, then you sort of start over, and it's not been bad. It's just it's a lot of turnover on the personnel. So I think it's been managed pretty well, but I've got to say also, Kelly at the Sheriff's Department's been doing an amazing job, and I know they've been just hammered at dispatch with all of the calls and all the information. So I've been trying to support her as much as possible, sharing the messaging and clarifying so that they, we can get the right information out to people, but it's been working great. So
Okay, anything else?
that'll do it.
All right, well, good seeing you again. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks so much.
Great day.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, take care. Dropping.
I just got on the webpage. It is hard to find Code Red on the webpage.
It is. I struggled.
Hey,
Finally just found on Facebook.
hey, work. Before she finally got it and then was able to get set up on it. It was a pain.
Okay, we're going to keep right on going to our agenda. The next one is commissioner discussion, and this is an action item. This is to approve the meeting minutes of September 3rd.
I did review those. I didn't see anything on them that needed corrected, so I will move to approve the meeting minutes of September 3rd.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
I
Aye, motion carries. This being the last item on our morning agenda, we will, and our 1 o'clock being taken off the agenda, we'll